The morning of my wedding dawned clear and beautiful, with golden sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the bridal suite at the Rosewood Estate. I stood in front of the ornate mirror, putting the finishing touches on my makeup while my best friend Sarah zipped up my dress. "You look absolutely radiant," Sarah said, stepping back to admire the final result. "David is going to lose his mind when he sees you." I smiled, feeling a flutter of nervous excitement. After 3 years of dating and a year-long engagement, I was finally marrying the man of my dreams at what was arguably the most exclusive venue in the state. "I still can't believe you managed to book the Rosewood Estate," Sarah continued, adjusting the train of my dress. "Didn't your wedding planner say they're usually booked 3 years in advance?" "Something like that," I said vaguely, not wanting to get into the details of how I'd actually secured the venue. A knock on the door interrupted our conversation. "Come in," I called. My mother entered, looking stunning in her navy blue dress, but her expression was tense. "Natalie, honey, you look beautiful," she said, giving me a careful hug so as not to wrinkle my dress. "Thanks, Mom. You look great too." She glanced around the opulent bridal suite with its marble floors, crystal chandelier and panoramic view of the gardens. "This place is impressive." "It is beautiful," I agreed. "It must be costing you a fortune." I turned back to the mirror to apply my lipstick. "Don't worry about the cost, Mom. This is my wedding day." "But sweetie, David's family is paying for the reception, and I know your father and I contributed what we could for the ceremony, but this venue?" She gestured around the room. "This has to cost more than all our contributions combined." "It's fine, Mom." "Really?" She looked uncomfortable. "Natalie, I hope you're not going into debt for this wedding. Marriage is about love, not about putting on a show." Before I could respond, another knock came at the door. This time it was my sister Jennifer, followed by my Aunt Carol and my cousin Lisa. "The bride," Jennifer exclaimed, though her smile seemed forced. "You look amazing, Nat." "Thank you." My Aunt Carol was also looking around the suite with barely concealed shock. "This place is incredible. It must cost a fortune to get married here." "That's what I was just saying," my mother chimed in. "I'm worried Natalie is overspending." Jennifer nodded. "I mean, I get wanting a nice wedding, but this seems really extravagant. Especially since you put gifts optional on the invitations." I had put gifts optional on the invitations, but not for the reason they thought. I genuinely didn't need anything from my family and friends. I just wanted them there to celebrate with me. "About that," my mother said awkwardly. "Since you said gifts were optional and frankly we're all pretty broke right now, we decided not to bring anything." "Mom, I told you gifts were optional because I meant it. I don't need anything from you except your presence here today." "But still," Jennifer added, "it feels weird showing up empty-handed when you've clearly spent so much on this wedding." Aunt Carol nodded in agreement. "We feel terrible, but between Jennifer's student loans, your father's medical bills from his surgery last year, and everything else, we just don't have extra money for wedding gifts right now." I turned to face them all. "I don't want gifts. I want you here celebrating with me. That's all I've ever wanted." "You say that now," Jennifer said, "but you might feel differently later when you're looking at thank you cards for gifts you didn't receive. Or when you're trying to pay off the credit cards you probably maxed out for this venue," my mother added with concern. I was about to explain that there were no maxed-out credit cards when Sarah, who had been quietly listening to this conversation, spoke up. "Maybe we should head down to the ceremony site? The guests are starting to arrive, and we need to do the final venue walkthrough." "Good idea," I said, grateful for the interruption. We made our way through the estate's marble corridors, past oil paintings and crystal sconces, toward the ceremony site. The Rosewood Estate was truly spectacular, a restored 19th-century mansion sitting on 50 acres of manicured gardens, with a guest capacity of 400 and a reputation for hosting the weddings of celebrities and business moguls. As we approached the outdoor ceremony area, I could see guests beginning to take their seats. David's family had arrived and were chatting with friends, everyone looking elegant and festive. My family, however, looked increasingly uncomfortable. "Jesus, Natalie," Jennifer whispered, "how many people did you invite?" "About 200, I replied. 200 people at a venue like this? My mother's voice was strained. "Honey, what did this wedding cost?" "Mom, please don't worry about the cost. Today is about celebrating love and family." But I could see her doing mental math, trying to calculate what she thought I was spending per guest at such an exclusive location. The flowers alone must have cost thousands, Aunt Carol murmured, staring at the elaborate arrangements of white roses, peonies, and hydrangeas that decorated the ceremony area. She wasn't wrong. The floral arrangements had cost $15,000. But what my family didn't know was that $15,000 was pocket change compared to my actual financial situation. Just then, a woman in an elegant black suit approached our group. I recognized her immediately as Margaret Foster, the venue's events coordinator. "Ms. Williams," she said with a professional smile, "everything is looking beautiful for your ceremony. The musicians are set up, the flowers are perfect, and the catering team is ready to begin service as soon as your reception starts." "Thank you, Margaret. Everything looks incredible. I just need to confirm one final detail with you before the ceremony begins," she continued, pulling out a tablet. "Should we charge the final venue fee to your usual account?" My family went quiet, clearly listening. "How much is the final payment?" I asked, though I already knew. "The remaining balance is $400,000, which covers the venue rental, catering for 200 guests, premium bar service, floral arrangements, musicians, and full event coordination." I heard my mother make a small gasping sound. "Yes, please charge it to my usual account," I said calmly. Margaret nodded and made a note on her tablet. "Perfect. And just to confirm, that's the account ending in 7394. "That's correct." "Wonderful. The payment will process immediately, and you'll receive your receipt via email within the hour." She looked up from her tablet with a warm smile. "Ms. Williams, I have to say, it's always such a pleasure working with clients from Meridian Enterprises. Your company has hosted some of our most memorable events here at the Rosewood Estate." My mother's face had gone completely white. "Thank you, Margaret," I said. "I appreciate all your hard work making today perfect." After Margaret walked away, the silence from my family was deafening. They were all staring at me like I'd suddenly grown a second head. "$400,000? My mother finally whispered. "For a wedding?" Jennifer added, her voice barely audible. "Natalie," Aunt Carol said slowly, "what did she mean about Meridian Enterprises?" I took a deep breath. I had hoped to get through the ceremony before having this conversation, but it seemed the universe had other plans. "Meridian Enterprises is my company," I said simply. "Your company?" my mother repeated. "I own Meridian Enterprises, yes." Jennifer was staring at me like I was speaking a foreign language. "You own a company?" "I own several companies, actually. Meridian Enterprises is just the largest one." "What kind of company is it?" my mother asked weakly. "We develop and manufacture sustainable energy systems for commercial and residential use. Solar panel arrays, wind turbines, battery storage systems, that sort of thing." "How big is this company?" Aunt Carol asked. "Last year we had revenue of about $340 million. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear birds chirping in the gardens around us. $340 million, my mother said faintly. "Give or take, yes." "Natalie," Jennifer said, "what exactly do you do at this company?" "I'm the CEO and majority owner." "Since when?" "I started the company 7 years ago, right after college. It took a few years to really take off, but we've been growing steadily." My mother sat down heavily on a nearby bench. "I think I need a minute to process this." "Mom, are you okay?" "Natalie, we thought you worked in... What did you tell us you did?" "I told you I worked in renewable energy consulting. We thought that meant you were like... an assistant or something. Someone who helped real consultants with their paperwork." I couldn't help but laugh. "No, Mom. I'm the CEO of one of the largest renewable energy companies in the state." "But you live in that modest apartment," Jennifer protested. "I live modestly by choice. I don't need a mansion to be happy. And you drive that old Toyota. It's reliable and fuel efficient. Why would I need anything else?" Aunt Carol was looking around at the venue with new understanding. "So when you said you could afford this wedding..." "I meant I could easily afford this wedding without going into debt or affecting my lifestyle in any way." "How much are you worth?" Jennifer asked bluntly. "Personally, after taxes and business reinvestment, probably around $89 million. My mother made another gasping sound. "But why didn't you tell us?" she asked. Why let us think you were struggling financially? I never said I was struggling. You assumed I was struggling because I live modestly and drive an older car. We offered to help you with your rent, Jennifer pointed out. And I politely declined every time. We thought you were just being proud. I was being honest. I didn't need help with rent. My mother was shaking her head slowly. All those times we worried about you. All those conversations about you needing to find a more stable job. You worried because you love me and I appreciated that. But you never actually asked about the details of my work. Because we thought we knew what you did. You thought you knew, but you never asked for specifics. Every time I tried to talk about my projects or my business growth, the conversation would shift to something else. Sarah, who had been standing quietly nearby during this entire exchange, finally spoke up. Maybe we should head to the ceremony site? Your guests are seated and David is probably wondering where you are. You're right, I said, grateful for the redirection. As we walked toward the beautifully decorated altar, my mother caught my arm. Natalie, I'm so sorry we showed up empty-handed. If we had known. Mom, I meant what I said in the invitation. I don't want gifts. I have everything I need. But we feel terrible. Don't. The only gift I want is having my family here to witness this moment. Still, Jennifer said, we should have brought something. You brought yourselves. That's all I wanted. As we reached the ceremony site, I could see David waiting at the altar in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, looking handsome and nervous. His parents, successful business owners themselves, were seated in the front row, beaming with pride. One more question, my mother said quietly. Does David know about your financial situation? I smiled. Mom, David is my business partner as well as my fiancé. He's the Chief Technology Officer at Meridian Enterprises. We've been building the company together for the past 3 years. So he's also quite wealthy, yes. Though not as wealthy as me, I added with a grin. My mother sat down in her seat, still looking dazed. The ceremony itself was beautiful. As David and I exchanged vows under an archway of white roses, with 200 of our friends and family members looking on, I felt overwhelmed with happiness. The venue was spectacular, the weather was perfect, and I was marrying my best friend and business partner. During the reception held in the estate's grand ballroom, my family gradually began to relax and enjoy themselves. The food was incredible, the band was fantastic, and the champagne was flowing freely. But I noticed my relatives were still acting a bit awkward around me, as if they weren't sure how to relate to this new version of me they'd discovered. During dinner, my father pulled me aside. Natalie, I owe you an apology, he said. For what, Dad? For not taking your work seriously. For assuming you needed our financial help. For not asking better questions about what you were building. Dad, you don't need to apologize. You were being a caring parent. But we missed so much. All these years, you were building something incredible and we had no idea. I looked around the elegant ballroom filled with friends, colleagues, and family members, all celebrating David's and my future together. You know what the funny thing is? I said. What? I kept my success quiet partly because I was afraid it would change how you saw me. I was worried you'd start treating me differently if you knew I was wealthy. And now. I watched as my mother chatted animatedly with David's parents, clearly enjoying herself despite her earlier shock. Jennifer was on the dance floor with her husband, laughing and spinning to the music. Aunt Carol was sampling the dessert table with obvious delight. Now I realize that the people who truly love you will celebrate your success, not resent it. My father smiled. We are proud of you, sweetheart. We always have been. We're just sorry we didn't show it in the right ways. You showed it by worrying about me, by offering help when you thought I needed it, by being here today. That's what matters. Later that evening, as the reception was winding down, Margaret Foster approached me again. Ms. Williams, I wanted to thank you for choosing the Rosewood Estate for your wedding. Everything went beautifully. Thank you, Margaret. Your team was incredible. I also wanted to mention that we'd love to discuss hosting your company's annual conference here next year. I know Meridian Enterprises usually books the downtown convention center, but we have corporate event packages that might interest you. My mother, who was standing nearby, overheard this conversation. Your company has an annual conference? She asked after Margaret walked away. Every year. About 800 employees, plus clients and partners. Usually around 1,200 people total. 1,200 people work for you? Well, they work for the company. But yes, Meridian Enterprises employs about 800 people directly, plus we contract with dozens of smaller firms. My mother shook her head in amazement. I still can't believe we didn't know any of this. You know now, I said simply. As David and I prepared to leave for our honeymoon, 2 weeks in Tuscany at a private villa I'd rented for the occasion, my family gathered around to say goodbye. Where are you going for your honeymoon? Jennifer asked. Italy, I replied. That sounds wonderful, my mother said. You've earned it after planning such a beautiful wedding. Actually, David interjected with a grin, Natalie didn't plan this wedding. She hired a team of event planners. She's been way too busy with the European expansion of the company. European expansion? Aunt Carol asked. We're opening offices in Germany, France, and the UK next year, I explained. It's been consuming most of my time lately. No wonder you didn't want wedding gifts, Jennifer said with a laugh. What could we possibly give you that you don't already have? You gave me exactly what I wanted, I said, looking around at my family's faces. You gave me your presence, your love, and your support. That's worth more than any physical gift. Even though we thought you were broke and showed up empty-handed? My mother asked with a rueful smile. Especially because of that. You came to celebrate my happiness even when you thought you couldn't afford to bring gifts. That tells me everything I need to know about your character and your love for me. As David and I drove away from the Rosewood Estate in our rental car, a practical sedan that had confused the valet staff, who were expecting something more luxurious, I reflected on the day's revelations. How do you feel about your family knowing the truth now? David asked. Relieved, I said honestly. I didn't realize how much energy I was putting into hiding my success from them. And how do you think they're handling it? Better than I expected. I think they're more shocked that they missed the signs than they are impressed by the money itself. Your mom seemed pretty impressed by the money. I laughed. She was shocked by the wedding bill. But I think what really got to her was realizing she'd been offering to help me pay rent when I could have bought her house in cash without blinking. Well, now you won't have to deflect their offers of financial help anymore. True. Although I suspect I'm going to start getting requests for financial help from extended family members I haven't heard from in years. David grinned. The price of success. Worth it though. Especially since I get to build this empire with my favorite person in the world. As we drove toward the airport for our Italian honeymoon, I thought about the conversation I'd have with my family when we returned. There would probably be questions about the business, curiosity about our lifestyle, and maybe some awkwardness as they adjusted to seeing me differently. But for the first time in years, I wouldn't have to hide who I really was or downplay my achievements. I could be fully myself, successful businesswoman, loving daughter, and now happily married wife. And my family would love me for exactly who I was, just as they always had. 3 months later, my parents visited the Meridian Enterprises headquarters for the first time. I gave them a full tour of our research and development labs, introduced them to key members of my executive team, and explained how our sustainable energy systems were helping reduce carbon emissions across the country. I'm so proud of what you've built, my mother said as we stood in my corner office, looking out over the city through floor-to-ceiling windows. We're both proud, my father added. And we're sorry it took us so long to really understand what you do. I'm proud of you too, I said. You raised me to work hard, treat people fairly, and build something meaningful. Everything I've accomplished comes from the values you taught me. Even if we didn't recognize your success when we saw it? Especially because of that. You loved me when you thought I was struggling, and you're proud of me now that you know I'm successful. That consistency means everything. As they prepared to leave that day, my mother handed me a small wrapped box. What's this? I asked. A very belated wedding gift, she said with a smile. Inside was a simple silver picture frame, and nestled within it was a photo from my wedding day. The moment right after David and I were pronounced husband and wife, both of us laughing with pure joy. It's perfect, I said, meaning it completely. We know you don't need anything material from us, my father said. But we wanted you to have something that represents our love and support. This is the best wedding gift you could have given me. And it was true. Because while I could afford to buy anything I wanted, the most valuable things in my life, love, family, and genuine relationships, couldn't be purchased at any price. They could only be earned through honesty, authenticity, and the courage to be your true self, even when it meant revealing just how successful you'd become. Sometimes the best gifts really are the ones that cost nothing but mean everything.